this stuff. Just a second. There we go. Okay. There we go.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the first Faces Friday of the new year. I'm Jacob Hackett. It's nice to be back with you as we haven't done an episode since before the holidays. My guest today, she's coming fresh off of competing in the 2023 Miss America competition. She's an autism advocate, and her social impact initiative, which I'll get to in a moment, focused on autism. So this is the perfect opportunity and interview to start the year for Faces Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Georgia 2022-2023, Kelsey Hollis.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So Kelsey, I'll start. Tell the viewers a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I am 23 years old. This is actually super cool too, because today's my birthday. So I turned 23 today, but I'm from Warner Robins, Georgia. I started competing in the Miss America organization when I was about 13 years old. But my brother has always had autism. He was diagnosed at a very young age. So I've always been an autism advocate, really since I'd say childhood. I enjoy sports. I'm actually attending the University of Tennessee, majoring in journalism and electronic media, but I kind of want to shift gears for my master's and go more into sports psychology. So I'm excited to be able to do that. The Miss America organization has definitely given me a good realm to feel comfortable to explore those avenues, though.
Yeah, and you're not the first Miss America contestant I've ever had on you. And the Miss America organization just seems so willing to give back to the girls with whatever they need.
Definitely. I mean, it's the largest scholarship provider for women in the whole country. And I think that speaks volumes. Like I said, I'm from Georgia, so I wouldn't have been able to attend school out of state if it weren't for the scholarships that I've been able to obtain within the Miss America organization. So I think it does a great job with that, but also just helping us in different realms of life, doing interviews, knowing how to speak to people, feeling comfortable stepping into being an advocate for the things that we're really passionate about. So I think it's very well-rounded as an organization.
Right. And the topics of Miss America, each one of your social impact initiatives, which I'll get into more in depth in a minute, but but each one of you brings something different. For example, Miss New Jersey, hers is human trafficking. And I mean,
right.
Some people choose, it's not called, well, I think it is still called like binge eating and stuff like that. I mean, everybody does what's comfortable and what they know about to, portray themselves to be the next Miss America.
Right. And I mean, I think that's the coolest part about it. Like when I first started competing, obviously I had things that I was passionate about, that I cared about, but it really did open my eyes to the different issues that are prevalent within society and things that need to be advocated for and prompted for people to also be educated on. So I've learned a lot, even just like through the time period that I started competing as well.
So you mentioned your brother in the open. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about him.
Yes, his name is Jeremy. We're actually 22 months apart. He's older, but we were really close growing up. So I think that kind of helped in me being able to understand him and the things that he went through, and still to this day goes through. But yeah, he was diagnosed with ASD when he was about 5 years old. So I think I just progressively started to realize that the normal that our family was experiencing and that we were living in is completely different from the experience that a lot of other family members have, and especially siblings. So when I first actually started my social impact initiative of Autism Acceptance, a Platform for Change, back then I actually called it Autism Awareness. But I kind of slowly began to realize that it's very easy to be aware of something, a little more difficult to accept it. So now I focus on the acceptance route and just helping people to also be educated, but in turn take that education and actually apply that within their everyday lives.
Yeah, because as you know this as well as I do, autism just isn't on one playing field. Autism could be the person could be so normal you don't even know they have it.
Have it exactly. Well, that's one thing that I remind people that it's a spectrum. So you have people who are lower functioning, you have people that are higher functioning. In my brother's case, he actually was very low functioning when he was younger, and the older that he got, he actually became more high functioning due to, I think, the appointments that he was able to be in. And my mother is also a special education teacher, so he kind of had that firsthand help all the time within his life. So I think he was very blessed in that sense, but not everyone is in that position. So I definitely want to just be an advocate for everyone that is diagnosed and their families as well.
Right. And this is going to go into my next question. Since you began advocating for people with disabilities, and this can include COVID, what are some of the challenges you've seen or have faced?
Well, I mean, I think it really does go back to awareness. And like I said, that's the educational component. I think a lot of people really just don't know what certain things are, and they don't understand the validity of how easy it is to actually implement other people's lives and the other things that other people go through into their own lives. So I focus on being able to educate people just from a standpoint of actually showing them what we all have to offer. I think that's also what it goes back to. My brother is extremely smart. I tell people all the time that he's actually smarter than me, in my opinion. So it's about finding the things that everyone has to offer and really just highlighting those things through the educational experience. Obviously, by definition, and teaching people those things. But when I first started advocating in general, just for those who have special needs, that was the biggest challenge, I'd say, just actually breaking that educational barrier.
Oh yeah, and because they'll look at someone with autism, with cerebral palsy, with Down syndrome, with any form form of disability, and they'll go, "Oh, that person's so low, they won't be able to accomplish anything." No, look at the person, because I have cerebral palsy myself, and I
Yeah.
mean, look at the person. Don't look at the disability with the glass half full.
Yeah.
Look at head on, straight faced, and run with it.
Yeah. And I mean, in turn, there's a way of almost kind of taking that same concept and applying it to ourselves. One thing that I've always struggled with is anxiety. And so, just like, there are certain things that I have to change within my life to make myself feel more comfortable around other people in certain situations. People with autism or people with Down syndrome or cerebral palsy go through those same things. So I try and explain it in that sense. I think that kind of helps people to understand it a little more, but no one looks at me and categorizes me by the fact that I have anxiety. So I have to just remind them to kind of take that same respect to those who have special needs in life as well.
Exactly. Before we, the second part of this interview is going to be all about Miss America.
Okay.
But before we hit that, do you support any organizations for people with disabilities within Georgia or across the state?
Yeah, so one really awesome organization that I actually just got connected with this year during my reign as Miss Georgia is the Autism Faith Network. My faith is something that's always been really important to me. I know that my parents prayed a lot in terms of my brother, even as he was getting older and just wanting him to be successful and progress in life. But they focus on basically combining those two components of autism, acceptance and awareness, and faith, and implementing that into churches so that those are safe spaces as well. I've also gotten to work with Autism Speaks. I had the opportunity actually to go to our Capitol when they first introduced a bill called Ava's Law, which offers insurance coverage to those who have autism. I believe it's about $35,000, and I was able to actually go and meet privately with our legislators with Autism Speaks. And on their behalf to advocate for the passing of that bill, which ended up happening about 2 weeks after I did that. So I think those two organizations have been really pinnacle in just also educating me on different ways to be a better advocate. That's one thing that I always encourage girls to do. I think it's great for us to kind of take it upon ourselves to be advocates. But when you have someone on your team that's very well versed on what you're advocating for, I think that gives you a little bit more credibility in your journey as an advocate.
Yeah, yeah, and you brought up a good point, credibility.
Yeah.
The more credibility you have, the better off you'll be, I think. So,
Right. It's always, I mean, it's in a way still a job in terms of just taking it seriously from a business standpoint. When you are being an advocate for such a large group of people who deserve that advocacy as well. So I've definitely tried to make sure that I'm able to implement those certain aspects of credibility in my journey. And I also forgot to mention my freshman year of high school, I started a nonprofit organization called TABS, which stands for Teaching Autism Awareness by Siblings. Like I said, I recognize the differences that my brother experienced, but I also recognize the difference as a family member, and especially as a sibling that I experienced. And I definitely have focused on creating focus groups for families to be able to talk about the things that they go through and the challenges that they've also endured throughout having someone in their family with a disability and with autism.
well, that's great because yes, you have autism speaks. Yes, we're faces here in New Jersey, but there aren't many organizations like saying the one that you created
Yeah.
that go right down to street or state level.
Right, right, exactly. And I think a lot of girls, it's very easy to kind of slap a national name of an organization on your social impact initiative. But I think when you're able to kind of hone in on those things that are, like you said, at a state level or even at a local level, that kind of helps to hit those smaller groups that may not get attention from those national organizations. And just to be really intimate, that's one thing I wanted to focus on in my reign as Miss Georgia, being very hands-on and palpable, and face-to-face interactions with people and being in situations where they can feel like not only am I an advocate, but I'm a friend as well.
Right. You want to be, you don't want to disclose yourself to one group of people. You want to be there for everybody.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Now, getting onto the topic I'm dying to know about, and I'm sure everybody else is too. I'll start it off like this. What was, if there was during your entire week participating in Miss America, was there one moment that defined it all?
Oh, one moment that would have defined. Would you say, is this the definition of my whole Miss America experience or my experience competing, like since I
Well,
first started in the organization?
well, make it a two-part question.
Okay.
Start as your reigning Miss Georgia. Have you done anything there? And
Okay.
then we'll go to MAO.
Okay. Well, I would say one of the best moments that I had just in my reign as Miss Georgia so far, there are actually two things. So one time I was watching a pageant actually, and I had to go to the bathroom. And I remember walking in the bathroom and there was a little girl with her mom, and she had like natural hair. I want to say her hair was maybe in a fro. And I remember her looking at me as I walked past her and I heard her say to her mom, that's what I want to be when I grow up.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Um,
Even but I think we forget the power of presence sometimes, and being able to be in a situation where people can see themselves in you, especially younger girls. So that was really pinnacle. I also was able to have a focus group at one of our high schools here in Georgia, and just hearing the kids talk about their siblings at such a young age was very eye-opening to me because I don't think I was that emotionally intact at their age, and I wasn't able to express myself in the way that they have. So I think that was just big because it gave me that confirmation that we really do have a generation of game changers and people that are going to make extremely big differences on behalf of people that they really care about in this next generation. In terms of Miss America, I would say, Honestly, so I went into Miss America very optimistic, but I recognized that, anything could happen. So I set the goal for myself of actually winning the preliminary award for social impact pitch, just because that's something that's really important to me. I've always won awards in talent, but I've been such an advocate for so long, and that's something that I've just always held close to my heart. So I wanted that to translate in the most genuine way possible. They gave out a preliminary award for social impact pitch this year, which is the first year that they've done that with just that alone. And so winning that preliminary award for me meant the world. My brother unfortunately wasn't able to come to Miss America. So I felt like kind of winning that award, I felt like I kind of had a piece of him with me during that experience. So I'd say that that kind of made everything come full circle for me at the national level.
Yeah, and moments like that, like you said, you felt as though you want a piece of him inside of you. It's moments like that that'll stay with you
Yeah.
forever, and they won't, and they're not going anywhere. Yeah, going into talent, I saw you compete last night.
Okay.
I know this answer, but tell the world, what was your talent?
Yes, I actually sang I Didn't Know My Own Strength by Whitney Houston.
Yes, you did, and you did a beautiful job. I was thinking, will Miss Georgia win Miss America? I was pulling for you.
So much.
Yeah, it was a beautiful performance. I'm sure it's on YouTube if you want to watch. If you could give any, no, I'll make that the last question. Was there a specific, of course, I know you girls have the dream of becoming Miss America long before you're on that stage. Was there a specific Miss America that inspired you at a young age to compete?
I wouldn't say necessarily that inspired me to compete, but Betty Cantrell actually, the year that she won Miss America, she was my miss at the local level. She was Miss Warner Robins and I was Miss Warner Robins Outstanding Teen. So I like seriously got a firsthand seat at watching her journey through winning Miss Georgia and then eventually winning Miss America that year. And I think it just helped me to understand that it's something that we can do. I think for a while, seeing Miss America, it was almost like, wow, I could never be that. Like it wasn't something that was palpable. And I think we put her on such a high pedestal for so long that a lot of people didn't think it was realistic to see yourself as Miss America one day. So being able to see someone that I knew go through that journey in such a genuine and humble way definitely gave me confidence to continue competing. That was my first year actually competing at Miss Georgia. And the year before that, I had competed in local season and I just never won a title. So that definitely was a jogging confidence for me to just remember that if you're really committed to this organization and if that's God's calling for you, that it definitely is possible.
Oh yeah, and sadly with Miss America, you get 6 tries to do it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you only get 1 try to win it all.
Yeah.
I give you girls credit for all that you do to push yourselves
right.
to make to have your Miss America moment. I mean, like I said, I had a hard time deciding at home that night who's going to win Miss America. I mean, there's 52 of you?
51, yes.
51.
District of Columbia.
Right. That's not a state on the map, but it is for Miss America.
It is. It is.
If you could give any young woman, any advice who wishes to be a part of the MAO one day, what would you say to them?
I would probably say that you need to always remember that people may not necessarily remember the things that you say all the time, but they will always remember the way that you make them feel. I think when I started adapting to that mentality throughout, not even just my reign as Miss Georgia, but just as a title holder in general, that spilled over into my personal life. And I started to realize that I was treating people just in my life every day better because I was focusing on making sure that everyone felt seen, making sure that I was cognizant of how I was making other people feel. I think this organization has a really beautiful way of taking who you are, if you utilize it correctly, and helping you to shape yourself as a woman outside of just pageantry. I mean, that's the beauty of it all. I think when you focus on that, focus on making yourself a better woman, whether it be a better sister, remind them to use this organization to better yourself. And when you do that, you'll naturally be successful.
Um, I am going to restart. I'm going to ask you that question again
Okay.
because you cut out.
Oh, did I cut out? Okay.
You cut out a couple times.
Okay.
But I wasn't worried about it the first time. I'll
Okay.
ask you again. If you could give any woman any advice who wishes to be a part of the Miss America organization one day, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to always remember that the people that you come in contact with may not always remember the things that you say, but they will always remember the way that you make them feel. I think this organization has a really beautiful way of shaping us as women if we utilize it correctly, and for the genuine reason of actually wanting to better yourself and better the world around you. So I think even just when I first started competing, my intentions weren't necessarily always set in the right place. And I realized that I wasn't successful until I started focusing on bettering myself internally with the tools that this organization has given me. So recognizing how important it is to better yourself, whether it be a better friend, a better sister, a better daughter. I think when you're able to do that when you first enter this organization, then regardless of what title you win, or if you even win a title at all, you will always be successful.
And being proud and being of who you are,
Yeah.
and Miss America's message at the end of the day is just um, so special for so many of you. You'll now you'll be able to say I was a part of the 101st
Yeah.
class of Miss America women. I'm sure you wish you had the opportunity to do it in Atlantic City, but oh well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the interesting part about being in this organization for so long, because I was Miss Georgia's Outstanding Teen back in 2016. So I got to experience the Atlantic City Miss America, but I've also gotten to experience this side of things. I think change is inevitable, and it's about being able to go with the flow. I think those girls who were able to kind of stick it out within the 1.0 and 2.0 era showed how important that is to just be adaptable. And that's a part of life. So it's definitely an interesting change, but it's been a great one, I think.
Oh yeah, and just to be, and that's a lesson we all learned
Yeah,
this past year with COVID.
right.
Be adaptable because hello, we saw how that happened. You went from working to no work in like
Exactly.
a week. And let me ask you, this isn't on the sheet, but what was that? I mean, where at that point in your life, where were you?
So I was in school at Tennessee. I remember actually when they kind of sent out the message that we weren't going to be back in person that semester. I'm naturally an introvert though, so being able to kind of work from home for me wasn't too bad. I will say that it kind of put me in a position to really face certain aspects of myself that I don't know I would have faced if COVID and just that whole era hadn't have happened. I think when you spend that much time by yourself and kind of secluded from other people, you're kind of forced to kind of fight your demons a little bit. So I think just character wise, that was a big turning point for me and just maturing a lot. But I do recognize like my brother struggled during that time period a lot with just being at home all the time and that change of routine. So I think that COVID in general, that era played a really big role in the mental health crisis that we have in the United States too.
Oh yeah, and yeah, I mean for anybody, I mean, for regular everyday humans, for people
Right.
on the spectrum. I mean, that's a big change. When you're
Yeah,
doing things from home, I mean, nobody wants to go to school on Zoom.
exactly.
I
Exactly.
mean, I can only imagine how hard it was for you.
Yeah,
To
well, it's
try
like your
to-
mid-semester. It almost was kind of like everything that you had been doing came to a halt, and then you kind of had to learn a completely different way of life. And I remember, like, I would hear people continuously say, like, "Oh yeah, when things go back to normal," and in my mind, I was just like, "I hope people understand that this is going to be the new normal." And I think it changed a lot of how we conduct business and things like that within the world as well after COVID.
oh yeah, because even though we're far better than where we were 3 years ago,
Yeah,
this is the new normal, people.
it really is.
Get used to it if you like it or not. Um,
Exactly.
before before I stop this recording, any final thoughts? Anything for me before I stop the recording? Don't go away because I have a question for you once I
Okay.
stop the recording.
I mean, no, not really. I think your questions were perfect, and definitely gave me great realm to be able to talk about myself and the things that I've been able to be a part of. I'm thankful that you reached out to me to do this. I definitely feel honored. But yeah, I'm just thankful for the opportunity. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Georgia Kelsey Hollis. Now I will stop this